Government shutdown. What does that mean to you? Should you really care? In this video, I'm going to talk about the direct and the indirect impacts of a government shutdown and why should you really care. By now, most of you have probably heard about the government shutdown. So why should you really care? Well, some may say, I'm not really in real estate. I'm not in a business that's related to real estate. So how does it affect me? Well, it affects you in sometimes the direct way or sometimes the indirect way, because real estate in general has a huge impact, and the government shutdown is going to have a huge impact on the economy, whether you are on the right or the left, it really doesn't matter, but it's going to have some intended and some unintended impacts as a result of the shutdown. So as we relate it to real estate, how does it really affect things? Number one thing is it's going to affect the mortgages, meaning the mortgages that are going to be closing during the time of the shutdown or even after we come out of the shutdown, that may get affected. Now, it's going to depend on how long the impact really lasts. So that's going to be a direct effect. The next thing is number two, and that is impact on flood insurance. Flood or FEMA is a government-run program, and so if you're going to be buying a property where you have to buy or get a quote for a FEMA insurance, you may get impacted, and your closings and or your purchases may get impacted because of that. The third thing, this may hit a lot more people that are not even buying and or selling, and that is the affordable housing. So if you're a voucher holder that has a voucher for Section 8, also known as Housing Choice Voucher, you may get affected, because if your contract is coming up with your landlord or the property owner, that may affect and that may delay your move-in process, or for property owners, it may delay your payments because your contract may have already expired. The fourth one is probably the most important, and that is the consumer confidence in the market and the market stability. This definitely gets affected as a consequence of government shutdown. So people generally, when they feel good about the economy, when they feel things are going in the right direction, they tend to buy, whether it's a house or whether it's general goods and services. When there's unease in the economy, and this is one of the big reasons for unease, whether it's political instability, whether it's immigration, whether it's government shutdown, then people freeze in place, meaning people don't want to buy, they don't want to sell, they just want to wait and see. And the wait and see has a huge impact on the consumer psychology, and that definitely slows down the real estate market. So whether you're a real estate agent, whether you're a mortgage broker, whether you have any sort of a thing to do with real estate, or you may just be buying or selling a house, that sort of a thing is going to have a major impact. So those are the direct impacts as it relates to real estate. Now, there are some indirect impacts, so let's look at those. So when we think about some of the indirect impacts in terms of real estate, the number one thing we have to consider is the interest rates and the bond markets. So how are the interest rates affected and how are the bond markets affected? Well, both the interest rates as well as the bond market are based on CPI, which is Consumer Pricing Index, and they may be related to unemployment. Both those figures are put out by the feds, by the federal government, and because of that, if there's no guidance out there in terms of what is the unemployment, what is the CPI, then that may affect or delay the raising and or lowering of the interest rates, especially an issue if it affects the lowering of the interest rates depending on how long this particular shutdown lasts. So the second impact is our GDP. So the national GDP, which is gross domestic product, in general shrinks as the government shuts down. So as per the estimates by JP Morgan and Chase, about 0.1% per week. So depending on how long the impact lasts, that can have a massive effect on the national GDP. The next thing is your commercial loans as well as your multifamily loans. Well, those are directly related to the federal government, and the funding behind those and how they're backed, that may get affected as well. So if you have an interest rate risk and you're going to be doing a refinance, or you're going to be restructuring your mortgage and or buying a property, that also gets affected. affected. And last but not the least is going to be a regional or a local impact, meaning if you live in a DC area, if you live in Virginia, if you live in an area like Maryland, that is directly related to a lot of federal employees, that can also have an effect. Now, as I record this, we're about 7 to 8 hours away from the official shutdown time. So we don't know yet what the effect is going to be. And of course, the news and everybody else is having a field day with that particular news because that gives a lot of fodder. And so you have people on both sides of the aisle talking about it. So it doesn't really matter if you're a Republican or if you're a Democrat. Generally, a shutdown is not necessarily a good thing for the American people, regardless of your political views. This is Andrew. Talk to you soon.